Now, when come to the Islamic tomb, which is our topic of today, Islamic tombs are remembered by these 4, 5, 6 names. That the tomb is simply a place, a pit in the ground where the dead body is placed, and that process where a dead body is placed in a tomb, that is known as entombment. The second word is the mazar. Mazar actually, if you look at the etymology of this word, mazar simply means a ground which is full of greenery or green fields. So any tomb building or a tomb or a grave that exists in the middle of these green fields, that also known as or that became known as a mazar. So mazar simply means a tomb surrounded by greenery. Rosa is again an Arabic word which means garden. And since most of the tombs existed inside the garden, they became known as the Rosa. For example, sometimes Taj Mahal is also known as the Rosa, Taj Mahal, and so on. The fifth one is the Zari. I will talk about the mausoleum after this. Zari is a religious tomb in which nobody is buried, neither in the cenotaph nor in any underground chamber. It is absolutely a fictitious tomb of any important personality. So the Muslims have been creating this kind of tombs also, which are known as zaris. And for example, in Lahore, we have the zari of Hazrat Zainab at one of the places. And I have been to this place also. Actually, she is not buried here. She is somewhere in Syria. But then this artificial tomb has become very important, and people go and visit this place every day. Maybe hundreds and thousands of people visit it every day. So that is artificial tomb is known as a zari. Now the fifth one, which is a mausoleum. The story of the mausoleum is like this: that there was a person by the name of Mausolus. He was the ruler of Caria from this period to this period, and when he died, he left a will with his wife, who was interestingly his sister also. Now at that time, the sisters became wives. And sometimes when the father died, the mother became also property of the son. And she also became the wife of the son. So when Mausolus was dying, she left a will with his sister or wife, Artemisia, that please make a massive tomb over my dead body. So sister built a massive tomb. The tomb has been destroyed by an earthquake. But then the thinkers or those who can imagine are those who knew a little history of this great tomb, the tomb of Mausolus. And they have created some conjectural picture of this. This tomb was approximately 45 meter in height. And the two Greek architects who contributed to the design of this tomb was Satyros and Pentheus. Now looking at the picture of this tomb, this is the Mausolus, and this is his tomb as we see in this conjectural picture, and this is one of his coins that were published. And that is another picture of the tomb. And from the details given by the historian of this tomb, at the top of this tomb there was a chariot being pulled by 4 horses. Technically, this kind of chariot that is pulled by 4 horses is known as quadriga. This quadriga was of the natural size. For example, the horse made of stone was as big as a horse is in the natural life. And if we consider that, that means even at that height, this was a huge or a massive piece of sculpture placed at the top of the tomb. And if that was the scale, just imagine the scale and the height of this great tomb. And that is the quadriga placed at the top of the tomb, this original picture. And yet another picture, and the Mausolus and his tomb. And it was actually because of the Mausolus that the building became known as a mausoleum after his name. And then this name mausoleum became so popular that we use the name mausoleum even today for other royalties also. So much so that in Pakistan, the tomb of the father of nation, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, is also known as a mausoleum of Quaid-e-Azam, which I think is a misnomer. It can be a tomb, but it cannot be a mausoleum. So mausoleum has become a synonym for the tombs, or tombs which are very, very impressive and which are very decorative. This is the condition of the tomb, great tomb of Mausoleus today. This is situated at Bodrum in Turkey. Now let's come to the real topic of our discussion today, the diversity in the Islamic tombs. And then when I say diversity, the different types of the burial system which were carried out, when, as I said in the beginning of my lecture, the only possibility is only, as according to Sharia, we can only make a pit and put the dead body in it and then close the pit. We are not supposed to make even a mound over the pit, as we do it today. It's very common that we make a mound, and sometimes we make a grave of marble, and sometimes of decorative, and sometimes we also make a canopy over the grave. And I mean, the various kinds of structure over the graves have emerged through the history. And that is not permissible. Actually, when everybody start making a monument over the grave, perhaps there will be no space left for the burial of other people. So Islam preaches that when you bury, just level the ground and then forget about it. As I have seen the two battlegrounds which Islam fought in the beginning, the place where the Battle of Badr was fought and the place where the Battle of Uhud was fought in Arabia, and those people who sacrificed their lives in these two religious battles, their graves are there, but they are not in the form of the mounds. Only a stone is placed on the head side, which indicates that somebody is buried here, and this is his head side. So that was the practice which is generally carried out, and the same practice is carried out in most of the Muslim countries, even today. But then in some other countries, because of the certain bid'ah, which are the practices not truly associated with the religion, but associated with the local practices or vernacular practices, we started making mounds over the graves. The actual anatomy of the typical grave, which we say today, is something like this: that there is the the tomb building is here, this green thing you, and with the dome over top it. This is the actual huge building. And inside this building, there is a cenotaph. Nobody is buried in this. On the head side, there is a katba, or the epitaph, on which the history of the person who is buried is written over on it. By history, when I say that he was born in this year and was died this year, and he died because of this reason, maybe died as a martyr in the battle, or he died due to some accident, whatever is there, and then that information is given on this stone, which is known as a kataba. Kataba simply means on which something is written, and the cenotaph simply means a grave in which there is nobody, which is an empty grave. But at a distance, there is another small building from which a flight of steps goes down, and exactly below this cenotaph there is a room, and in this room there is the actual grave of the person who has died. So that means the actual grave is underground, which is technically known as an underground chamber, but the technical name is hypogeum, a chamber which is below the actual level. And then we normally go over here into visit when we go to visit these graves, which only go to these places and we pray for them. And actually we are praying for the people who are here, they are not here. So that occurs, that this kind of burial or this kind of chambers below the graves we see throughout the Mughal period and also after the Mughal period, even today. Then there is the concept of the Chahar Bagh. Chahar Bagh simply means a garden which has been divided into 4 gardens. And if you look at this huge garden, which is in front of the Taj Mahal Agra, this is Taj Mahal over here. And this is the huge garden in front of the Taj Mahal. This is the main gate. And this huge garden has been divided into 4 by these 4 canals. Now the concept is that in the Quran, it is said that when a pious person will die, he will go to Jannah, that is paradise. And in paradise, he will come across 4 rivers. And he will benefit from those rivers. And 4 rivers are rivers of pure water, that is number 1. The river of pure milk, number 2. The river of pure honey, number 3. And the river of pure wine. When we say wine, wine is prohibited in Islam. But when we say wine here, it is in Shirabe Tahura, a pious wine which will not intoxicate us, which will not make us mad, but the taste will be there. So after the promise in the Quran about these four canals, Muslim designed a garden which was having these four canals. And because of these four canals, this huge garden transferred into four small gardens. And because of these four gardens, the huge garden became known as a Chahar Bagh. Chahar Bagh simply means a garden which has four gardens within it. And in front of the Taj Mahal, which is here, we see this huge garden. And then on the western side of the Taj Mahal, there is a mosque, and in order to balance this or create a symmetry, on the opposite side, there is a madrasa similar to the mosque. So that is how the balance is created in this part of the building complex, and balance is created in this part of complex. And if you draw an axial line over here, whatever is at top, same is at the bottom. So that was another case where the symmetry was kept in these gardens. And if you look at the garden of the Humayun, that is also in the form of four gardens. Many four gardens are surrounding the great tomb of Humayun, the son of Babur, the founder of Mughal dynasty in India. Coming back to the story of the Taj Mahal, actually Shah Jahan wanted to build this Taj Mahal not at Agra, but he wanted to build it at Burhanpur, at the bank of the river Tapti. But since the Taj, then during the course of this process, when the Taj Mahal was being designed by the royal architects, uh, the idea came to his mind, that is the mind of Shah Jahan, that instead of creating Taj Mahal at Burhanpur, it should be in Agra, which was a very important city at that time for the Mughals. So Ajmal Banu Begum were temporarily building into these two buildings which are at Burhanpur. I do not know whether they exist today or not. They are also known as small Taj Mahal, or the first phase of the Taj Mahal. And Ajmal Banu Begum was buried here as an Amana, and when Taj Mahal was ready at Agra, her dead body was shifted to Agra and buried there. This was remain of the old Taj Mahal at Burhanpur. But these, if you look at the building here, I have been to this building also, and the steps going down into the chamber, which is below the ground level. And we see this chamber over here, and the graves, actual graves of Ajmal Banu Begum and Shah Jahan are these in these underground chambers. And then we come to another variety of the Islamic tomb, that is the tomb of the Noor Jahan at Lahore. This building is, I did a TV documentary about this tomb also. Now the building over here is perfectly okay, and supposedly there was a dome over it also, which doesn't exist today. But actually this tomb has been left unfinished by the lady because she wanted to create the tomb for herself and also for her husband and also her father, but the time didn't allow her. Her own tomb was left unfinished. But there is a strange theory about this tomb that there is a flight of steps which goes down. And when you go down, you have to turn right. And when you turn right, you feel there's a tunnel also. And then this tunnel is about 20 meters long, and you go into this tunnel and you reach a fairly big room. Now the history says, and history says that when Noor Jahan died, as her dead body was placed in a wooden coffin decorated with golden wires, inlaid golden wires. And that coffin was not buried, but her coffin was suspended, rather hung in that room by virtue of chains. So the coffin was suspended in the air by virtue of those chains. And I remember when I was a young boy of 9, 10 years, my father also took me to this tomb. And at that time, those chains were still hanging with the wall. But the coffin was missing, and there was no coffin. And the history says that when Ranjit Singh came to this area, he also visited this tomb, and he looked at the box or the coffin, and he opened this coffin. There was nothing in it, there were only except the bones. So that is how this story goes. But this remains the fact that her body was suspended mid in that room by virtue of those chains. Why this theory emerged and why she left a will that she should be buried or disposed, her body should be disposed of in that manner. Nobody knows, and she doesn't say anything about it either. No historian explained the theory, and I am still at loss what was the reason why she had this idea in her mind that she should neither be buried nor she should be cremated, but her dead body should be suspended in the room like this. So that is the second type which I came across during the course of my studies on Islamic architecture. At the higher upper level within this building, there is two rooms. One set of no sorry, one set of is her own, that is of Noor Jahan, and the second one is of her daughter Ladli Begum. That is also here, though her grave is somewhere else. So that is the second type, and then we come to a third type, which is also in Lahore. It is known as Sarv Wala Maqbara. When I say use the word Sarv, that's in the cypress-tree, which we see here. Because this decoration in Chinikari or Kashikari, which is a faience work, because of these trees, which are cypress trees, the tomb has also become known as a cypress trees. And there was a lady royal of the family, very, very pious lady. What she did was she created this tower for herself about 30 feet in height. And upper level, lower level is all solid, but upper level, this level is empty from inside. It's just a room. And the lady would climb up to that room, and there's a window also on the other side. And she will remain in that room for hours and hours and for days and days, simply busy in the worship. And when she died, and when she was about to die, she left a will that when I die, I should be buried in this chamber also. Now, this is the third example that a grave has been created at an elevated level. So her grave is in this room at this level. And this gives us the third example of the variety of burials in Islamic architecture. This tomb is also in Lahore.